preach a really mean sermon this morning.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
We probably need
Well, we do thank y'all so much. And, we're just proud. We're proud to be here. And I was telling Becky the other day that I said, gosh, it seems like we've been here almost our whole life. So thank y'all. So today, here's what I'm going to talk about today. If y'all caught us on YouTube and Facebook, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, and for those of you that don't know, the church has a YouTube channel, Coy UMC. You can go to YouTube and type in Coy UMC, and you can subscribe to that channel, and you'll get these updates, and I upload the sermons that I do on Facebook Live to them later in the week. We also have a Facebook page, Coy United Methodist Church. You can go to that page and like that page, and it'll come up on your Facebook feed. So feel free to do all that, to share it with your friends, and those kind of things. But today, I want to talk about love. A little about love, and I want to talk about the things. Jesus was confronted by some Pharisees. The text today comes from Matthew 22, 34 through 40. But I want to ask you a question before I read that text. If I asked you to tell me what was the most important traffic law in the state of Mississippi, could you tell me? You probably couldn't tell me. You could take a guess, but I would be willing to take a stab and say, everybody here don't know all the traffic laws in the state of Mississippi. I know I don't. When I went to my part-time law enforcement thing, they told us to be familiar. They give us a little mini book about this thing with traffic laws. And they said, be familiar with all of these traffic laws, but when you get out on patrol, pick you one or two that you're very familiar with and use those, but use them the same. There's no way we could say what law was most important, but that's exactly what the Pharisees asked Jesus to do in the text today. Asked him to prioritize a law, or the greatest law. And they like to do that. The Pharisees like to put things in importance. So let's look at our text today. Matthew 22, 34 through 40. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together. One of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. Now praise God for the reading and hearing of His word. Let's pray. Father, we love you and we thank you. We thank you for all of these things that are written down, that are inspired by God. Father, for our teaching and for our study. And Father, we just thank you for what you do in our lives. And Father, I ask you today to open our eyes and open our ears so that we may see and hear the message that you have for us. Father, let everything that all of us do always be of you and for you. And let us have love for all people. And let us have love for you. Fill us right now, Father, with your Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, Jesus had already passed all the tests that the Sadducees had given. Jesus had kind of shut those guys down, so to speak. They asked him all these questions, and he always threw it right back at them in a way that kind of stepped on their toes a little bit. And finally, they just left him alone. And the Pharisees had heard that, so they stepped up to the plate, so to speak, and said, well, I tell you, we'll test him a little bit. We'll ask him questions. And this lawyer, or some of your translations may say publican, asked him a question. Now, the Sadducees, that group was more of a political group and involved in all of that kind of stuff. Now, the Pharisees, though, they were kind of like the keepers of the law. They kept up with the law. They kept up with Scripture. They were that's what they did, kept up with biblical law. Now, the Jewish people had over 600 different commandments and laws and rules that they went by. And the Pharisees always tried to prioritize those things. And when they asked Jesus what is the greatest commandment, they were asking him, I think, what they thought might have been an impossible question. Because, Lord, be, how can you take out of those over 600 laws or commandments and decide which is the most important? Well, you and I couldn't do that, I'm sure. But it wasn't no step for Jesus. He gave them an answer. You know, when he was asked that, he laid it out to them pretty simple. He took some commandments from early Hebrews, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5, and Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, and he put them together and he said, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and you must love your neighbor as yourself. The two greatest commandments. He said, these things, if you do these things, that's going to cover all of the law and everything the prophets said. This loving God and loving your neighbor. He was just telling them, if you truly love God, you truly love your neighbor, you won't have to worry about all that other stuff. And I think what Jesus did is focus more on a positive thing, like loving God and loving your neighbor, versus a negative thing, such as you can't do this or you can't do that. Now, I grew up in a church and in a world where everything was, you can't do this, you can't do that. Never, until I grew into adulthood and Becky and I started attending a church, never did I hear about love and grace and mercy that we were given. All I heard was, you can't. You can't. You can't. Instead of you can. And we can. All of us can love God, right? All of us can love our neighbor. We can. And when we do that, nothing else matters. Everything else falls into place. Accentuate the positive. Give your full commitment to God. We've got to have total love for our Creator. Our heart, our soul, our body, our mind, everything we do, everything about our life, everything has to be about loving God. Now, you may not love God like that. I don't know. But we've got to love Him like that. That's the greatest commandment. And if you love God like that with all of your being, things are going to work out, I promise you. It will. God created us, I think, for love. For loving Him, for worshiping Him, for all of those things. He created us to love with every fiber of our being. And we can't be partially devoted to God. Being partially devoted to God, you will lead a miserable life. If you love the world and you love God about the same, you're going to be miserable, let me just tell you. You're always going to have an eternal fight going on in your body. If you want to have a life of abundance, you need to have 100% devotion to God. Some folks try to worship God with just emotions. They come in and they say, all right, preacher, preach a sermon that's going to make me feel touched by something. So about the feeling. And then some folks come in and they sit down and say, well, all right, preacher. Preach me a sermon that's going to fill my head full of knowledge about God. You need both. We've got to have emotion and love. We've got to have knowledge and love. We've got to have all those things when we worship God. You can't have one without the other. Don't check your intelligence at the door. Bring it in with you. Don't check your emotions at the door. Bring them in too. Bring everything about you into your worship. You've got to believe the facts about Christ. And you've got to believe the movement of the Holy Spirit. You've got to believe all of those. You've got to have a love for God with every fiber of your being. It's kind of like, now, I'm not a teenager anymore, but I want y'all to think about something. And I hadn't been around a teenager at my house in a long time. Some of you's got some at your house probably, or got some young folks. When you're in love as a teenager, you're so devoted to that person you love. You want to call them all the time. You want to text them all the time. You want to do things with them. You don't want to let them out of your sight, right? 100% of your day, you want to spend it with them. That's how we should be about God. That's how we should be about God. Now, when you get a little older, it's a little different. You still may love your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend 100%, but you don't have to be with them all the time. You can love them from far away. Sometimes it's better if you're loving them from far away. But we've got to have a total love and devotion for God if we want to live an abundant life. Don't check your feelings at the door. Don't check your knowledge at the door. Bring it all with you. We've got to learn to rest in the love of God and in the Trinity and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. So how do we do that? How do we build that loving relationship with God? We pray. We talk daily to our Creator. We spend time with Him. We read the Word. We gain knowledge. We do all of those things. And you don't just pray, you kind of pray without ceasing. Every bit and every facet of your life should be about this love for God. Treat Him like He's a close friend. That's where it begins. That's where it begins. Loving God totally is a complete commitment to Him. With our energy, our money, our self, our emotions, our talents, our time, our minds, all of us. We've got to get off the fence and quit straddling and trying to love the world and trying to love God. It just doesn't work. Y'all remember what I said about this straddling the fence. All you do is get a hole in your fence. What happens? Or you fall off the fence, bump your head. What do you think about this? What if we seriously started loving God with 100% devotion? Would it change the world? Would it change our community? Would it change our lives? You bet it would. You bet it would. Loving God that way would change everything about our life. Loving God is easy, right? Yeah. But Jesus added something else. He said the second one's like it. You got to love your neighbor just like you love yourself. And I'm going to tell you, as people, as human beings, we love ourselves, don't we? Y'all can admit it. I know you do. We all do. We like to look good when we go out. We like to have nice clothes. We like to have nice vehicles. We like to pamper ourselves. We like to go buy ourselves presents all the time. We love ourselves. And Jesus said, love them just like you love yourself. When we read the story about the Good Samaritan, we see that in action. that kind of love. And I think, look, this is just me talking. Sometimes I think, Lord, how do you expect me to love that person? How do you expect me to love my neighbor? Lord, you don't live by them. Lord, you don't have to listen to them. Lord, you don't go to church with them. They're not your family, they're mine. How do you expect me to love them? Well, here's how. If you love God, He's going to help you love your neighbor. Y'all know that verse that says this? It says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's how you love the unlovable. You depend on Christ to help you. Because He will. If you love Him, He's going to help you love others. The first thing, though, you've got to love yourself. You've got to. And I know there's people that's hard to love. It is. Y'all know people that's hard to love. Look, I'm not easy to love. Let me just tell you. I know y'all think I'm such an easygoing, lovable kind of guy. But Becky will tell you different. Becky will say, he's fooling y'all. He's an agitator. He likes to push buttons. He bothers me. He's hard to love. But for some reason she loves me anyway. I don't know why. But I'm a hard guy to love sometimes. We all are hard, probably, sometimes. But we're loved anyway. Because that's what we're called to do. If you still judge people, if you're a Christian and you still judge people by how they look, the color of their skin, how much money they have in their pocketbook, where they work, what they do, how they act, then you ain't loving them like God tells you to love them. How many of y'all have ever said you can't judge a book by its cover? But we still do. We try to. Look, I'm guilty. I do that sometimes. Let me just tell you. There's bad people in the world. There's good people in the world. There's rich people and poor people. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. That's just how it is. But we got to love them all. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what we're called to do. And with that relationship with Jesus Christ, that's what allows us to love those people. You know these people that are really hard to love. Look, I got people in my family that are hard to love. Not any that live with me up at the parsonage, but I've got people in my family and friends that are hard to love. And you know something that I've noticed about most of the people that are hard to love? They don't want to be unloved. They just have never been loved. They don't know what love looks like. They've never been loved. They've never been cared about. So if they've never been loved, how do they show people love? They can't. And it's up to us to show those kind of people love too. It's easy. It's easy to love folks that you're friends with, because, hey, they're your friends. It's easy to love most of your family. It's hard to love broken and hurting people. That's what we've been called to do. Some of y'all here remember the TV show Amos and Andy. It was before my time, but I remember it, and I've seen some reruns of it. One time, there was this big guy that hit Andy in the chest really hard every time he saw him. So one day, Andy told Amos, he says, I got something for him today. He said, really? He said, oh yeah, I got me a stick of dynamite right here in my vest pocket. And when he hits me in my chest today, bam, there goes his hand. He didn't think about what was going to happen to him, did he? We're like that sometimes. We are. We do things to not love people in spite of ourselves. Sometimes never thinking about what it does. when we refuse to love our neighbor, who are we hurting? We're hurting ourselves. We're hurting ourselves. We're letting someone steal our joy. How we love others really shows our relationship with God. It does. It does. We just have to love people. And when we love those people that are unlovable, or that we think are unlovable, that nobody else loves, just maybe they'll start to change. They'll go from saying, what do they want with me? What do they want with me? To saying, well, you know, maybe they really care. Maybe they really care. And sometimes that's all people need. So here's the thing. In church, as well as sports, there are players and spectators. It just is. A player comes in, they come to church, they read their Bible, they pray, they worship, they do all kinds of things, and they go out those doors and they love on people. That's what a player does. They're active. They're doing things. Now, a spectator comes in, sits on the pew, and says, "That's what you got for me today. Entertain. Well, I hope the choir got a good special so I can be entertained. I hope they play some of them old hymns because that's what I like." Then you may have another expectation. Boy, I hope this choir sings some kind of jazzy song because I want to be entertained, to be lifted up today. A spectator is just there watching things go on. They sit back and let others do the work. A player is not that way. Here's the main difference between a player and a spectator. A spectator thinks everything revolves around them. And a player knows that everything revolves around the team. Everything revolves around others. And to be a player, we've got to love God. And we've got to love our neighbor. And we've got to realize that things don't revolve around us. Joy. Y'all know what joy means. Jesus, others, and yourself. Players know that. Players know that. If you put your love of God first and foremost in everything, loving your neighbor becomes easy. It just does. So I want you to think about that. Do you want to fly through life halfway loving God, loving just a few of your neighbors, and losing out on your joy, losing out on your abundance? Jesus didn't die on a cross for that, for us to just go through the motions. He died on the cross for us to be blessed. He died on the cross because He loved us. And if He loved us that much, shouldn't we love others just as much as God loves us? I think so. I think so. So if you want to have joy and have it abundantly, live like you love. And love like you live. Amen? Amen. Praise God. Well, today, we celebrate Holy Communion. And it's a great thing. It helps us remember. And in the United Methodist Church, we believe that this table isn't ours. Well, as a matter of fact, we know this table isn't ours. This table belongs to Christ. It's His table. And Christ invites all of us. He invites all to this table. All who want forgiveness for their sins. All who want to live in fellowship with each other. All who want to love one another. He invites us all to this table. We also believe this is where people may meet Christ. Because Christ is here. He's here in the bread and He's in the wine. He's here all around us. He's present with us today. And we believe that. So, If it's okay with y'all, I'm not going to do all responsive readings today. But I'm going to do what I need to do. So, we remember. That's why we have Holy Communion. To remember what Christ has done for us. So, on the night that Jesus gave himself up for us, and we all know this story, he and the disciples were sitting there. Jesus took the bread, and he gave thanks to the Father. He offered thanks, and Jesus broke the bread, and he gave it to his disciples. And he said, "Take and eat. This is my body, which has been given for you." And then Scripture tells us that after the supper was over, Jesus took the wine. After giving thanks to the Father, he gave it to his disciples, and he said, "Drink from this, all of it. This is the blood of my new covenant. My blood poured out for you and your sins and the sins of me." He said, as often as you do this, and as often as you drink from this blood, do so in remembrance of me. And that's what we do today. We take this bread, as many as we are, when we break the bread. It's a means of sharing, each and every one of us, in the body of Christ. And when we take from this cup, it's a means that we share, each and every one of us, in the blood of Christ. And we do this to remember. So I invite you today, as we celebrate Holy Communion, to remember. Remember what Christ has done for you. Remember what he's going to continue to do for you. Remember how he's been present in your life. So when we start, I want to invite the music team up first, and Dan, if y'all would come on.